I still remember the day my son told me he was getting married. He said it with that excited grin he used to have when he was a little boy. But when I met the girl and her family, something inside me whispered that this was not going to be a normal marriage. I pretended to be poor and naive the first time I met my daughter-in-law's family. They laughed at my old clothes, my worn slippers, and the simple food I brought. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know that the woman they mocked once owned the company they were so proud of. And they had no idea what I was about to uncover about them. My name is Grace. I raised my son, Ethan, alone after my husband died in an accident. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. I ran a small textile business quietly after my husband's death, and it did well over the years. But I never told anyone how successful it became. Not even my son. I wanted him to grow humble, not entitled. When Ethan told me he wanted to marry a girl named Emily, I smiled. He said she came from a well-respected family. He wanted to impress them, and I didn't want to embarrass him. So when he asked me not to tell them about our business, I agreed. I wore my old clothes. I came on a rickshaw. I even brought homemade sweets in a reused plastic box. When I arrived, Emily's mother looked at me like I was an unwanted guest. Her lips curved in a fake smile. "Oh, Ethan didn't tell us his mother was so simple," she said. I smiled softly. "I believe in living within my means." She laughed. "How noble." Emily herself was polite, but distant. Her father barely greeted me. They spoke proudly of their businesses, their cars, their imported furniture. They looked down on my every word. I kept smiling, nodding, pretending not to notice. Because I wasn't there to impress anyone. I was there to learn who they really were. The marriage happened within months. I moved to a smaller town for a while to manage a new branch of my textile business. But soon, I started hearing things. Ethan sounded tired every time we spoke. "Everything okay, Beta?" I asked. "Yeah, Mom, just busy," he'd reply, his voice always shaking. But a mother always knows when her child is hiding pain. A few weeks later, my neighbor told me she saw Ethan's car parked outside late at night, alone. It wasn't like him to wander so late. I called, but he didn't answer. My heart began to feel heavy, like something was slipping out of my control. When I visited their house unannounced one day, Emily's face fell the second she opened the door. "Oh, you didn't call before coming." "I missed you both," I said, forcing a cheerful smile. Her mother appeared behind her, with that same fake sweetness. "Come in, Mrs. Oh, sorry, what was your last name again?" "It's Malik," I replied calmly. "Still is." They served me tea but barely looked at me. Ethan sat quietly, his shoulders hunched, his fingers tapping the table nervously. Emily's mother kept talking about how generous they had been, how much money they had invested in the young couple's future. I noticed Ethan's wedding ring was missing. When I asked, he looked startled. "Oh, it's being cleaned," he said quickly. But I could see the bruise on his wrist, faint but real. Later, as I was leaving, I overheard voices near the gate. Emily's father was scolding him. "Don't disappoint us, boy. You owe us everything. Without us, you'd still be living in that tiny house with your poor mother." Ethan just nodded, his face pale. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, my heart pounding with worry. I called one of my old business contacts, a man who had worked in finance for years, and asked him to check Emily's father's company. 2 days later, my phone rang. "Grace," he said in a low voice, "you won't believe this. Their company is drowning in debt. They've been hiding losses for years. And listen, they're using your son's name as collateral for fake investments." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My own son, trapped in their lies. They hadn't just used him emotionally. They were destroying his future. I sat in silence for a long time, the sound of the clock echoing through my empty house. Then, something inside me hardened. If they thought I was weak because I looked poor, they were about to learn how wrong they were. I didn't confront them right away. I wanted them to feel safe, comfortable, confident in their game. For weeks, I collected evidence, transaction records, fake contracts, signed papers using Ethan's name. Each night, I sat under the yellow light of my study, filing everything neatly. The more I found, the angrier I became. But I didn't want my son to lose faith in me. So I stayed silent and waited for the right moment. When the moment came, I was ready. That day, I put on my best navy blue suit, tied my scarf neatly, and stepped into my car. A Mercedes, one I'd bought years ago but rarely used. As I pulled up to their mansion, neighbors peeked through their windows. The same woman they mocked as poor was now arriving with a driver and a car they could only dream of. Emily's mother opened the door, her jaw dropping. "Oh. Mrs. Malik," she stuttered. What a surprise." "Yes," I said, smiling calmly. "I thought I'd visit my son. I hear he's been under a lot of pressure lately." Ethan came rushing to the door, confused. "Mom, what is this car? What's going on?" I touched his cheek gently. "It's time you knew the truth, sweetheart. I'm not as poor as they made you believe." I walked past them straight into the living room. Emily's father sat with two investors, mid-meeting, talking numbers. He looked up, startled. "Ah, Mrs. Malik," he said, forcing a grin. "We were just discussing some business matters." "Yes," I replied. "I know. You've been using my son's name for your fake accounts. Quite an interesting business strategy." The investors turned to him immediately. "What is she talking about?" one of them asked, frowning. Emily's father's smile vanished. She's mistaken." I placed a folder on the table. "Am I?" "These are your company records, along with the signed bank documents using Ethan's name." One investor stood up. "This is fraud." Emily gasped. "Father, tell me this isn't true." Her mother's face drained of all color. Ethan looked at me, confused and broken. "Mom, what is this?" I said softly, "They didn't love you, my son. They used you to save themselves. But they won't anymore." Emily's father tried to grab the folder. "Listen, we can settle this." I stepped back. "There's nothing left to settle. The authorities already have copies." The investors stormed out, slamming the door behind them. Emily burst into tears, running upstairs. Her mother collapsed on the sofa, muttering, "This can't be happening." I looked at Ethan. "Let's go home." He hesitated, still trying to process it all. But then he took my hand, his voice trembling. "Let's go, Mom." As we walked out, I turned to Emily's father one last time. "You should have respected people, even when they looked poor. Sometimes the ones you mock have the power to destroy everything you built on lies." Days later, the truth came out publicly. Emily's father's company was exposed for fraud, and his business empire collapsed. Emily's family disappeared from the neighborhood overnight, leaving behind debts and shame. Ethan was devastated but also free. He came to me one evening, his eyes red from crying. "Mom, I was blind. I thought they were better than us." I smiled softly. "Sometimes, the rich in money are the poorest in heart." He hugged me tightly. "You saved me." I whispered, "No, sweetheart. I just reminded them who they were dealing with." Emily filed for divorce soon after, unable to face the disgrace. Ethan rebuilt his life slowly, working with me in the textile company. He didn't want special treatment. He earned every bit of respect through his own hard work. Sometimes, when I see him managing the business with honesty and kindness, I think maybe all of this had a purpose. Maybe fate wanted to test both of us, to see if we could stay pure in a world full of greed. And me? I still wear my old clothes sometimes. I still take the rickshaw. Because people show their true faces when they think you have nothing. And I never want to forget who I was before all this, the woman they called poor but who had the richest heart of all. They mocked my poverty, but it was their greed that made them truly poor.